Hey everybody, welcome to Trailers Are Spoilers. My name is Everett, and this is my brand new podcast. I had a podcast called Geek Cinema. I don't know if you're coming from that, or if you're just new completely to me, or if you follow my reviews online, whatever. But I've never done a podcast by myself before, so this is going to be interesting. But today we're talking about The Lion King 2019. And I find it very important to stress the years that these movies are released because I found this a huge disappointment, and I don't think we should be getting the movies confused. So The Lion King 2019 has just come out. It's based on the 1994 Lion King, and I first off have to admit I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the original Lion King. I think it's a great movie and a near perfect film, maybe a masterpiece if you will, but it's never specifically been in my top 5 list. Rather, a movie that also came out in 2019, a remake of a Disney movie, Aladdin, I would say the original Aladdin falls into my top 5 list of movies of all time. Not even just Disney movies, just movies of all time. And so you would think that seeing 2019 Aladdin was a huge disappointment for me, but The Lion King was significantly more, because going into Aladdin 2019, I was expecting it to be straight garbage. I mean, for one, we have Guy Ritchie directing it. In this, we have Jon Favreau of Iron Man and The Jungle Book. So I wasn't expecting this to be necessarily bad, at lowest just good or okay. But honestly, Aladdin I at least had fun in. It was still pretty terrible, but I liked Will Smith, and in this movie I felt bored for most of the film. There's a lot of it that's just shot for shot remake, which was good looking, but it essentially at the end of this movie, not even at the end, throughout the movie, which was a very similar experience to what I had during the 2017 Beauty and the Beast, was I was wishing the whole time I was watching the original. And that was probably how I felt through this entire movie, because the shot-for-shot stuff, well, although it looked good, it didn't feel the same energy-wise. It didn't feel as emotionally powerful for some reason. And my theory in this is, I'm sorry, I just bumped the mic. While the effects look great, they look like real animals, I think they look too real. The way they're animated is to make them look like they're real lions and real hyenas and whatnot, but unfortunately those animals haven't evolved the same emotional muscles we have in our faces. We have these muscles to present different emotions to each other, and these animals don't have that, so they don't feel human, which they're not humans, but there's a disconnect there emotion-wise between us and them, whereas in like The Jungle Book, you have this human character to connect the audience the whole time, Mowgli, and I even feel like it's the same director. I feel like even in that movie, I need to go rewatch it, the animals felt more emotive in it. Maybe, I don't know. I need to go watch it again. I haven't seen it since probably 2017 or 18. But this one, the whole time, they just, I didn't really care about the animals. We get to, and I guess spoiler alert, if you've never seen The Lion King, you don't know this. Mufasa, when he dies, that's a classic bawl your eyes out scene. I didn't really feel any more than a tiny bit of emotion, which is probably more due to Hans Zimmer's classic song at that moment. The whole scene there just didn't really make me feel even sad, whereas I'm a very emotional person when watching movies, so I often cry during sad scenes, and nothing here. And not just that, there's like moments where Simba and Mufasa have their little exchange of knowledge from father to son in the field after he's gotten in trouble. And in the original, it just feels so powerful. You have Mufasa talking to Simba about how he's gonna die someday, essentially, and you can see the love in Mufasa's face for his son. You can see Simba truly fearful of his father before he gets a talking to, and there's just stuff like that. It's just gone in this movie. It's completely, it feels like it's void of emotion, essentially. And that just, it's a huge detriment to the movie to me, probably the biggest. The second is, it feels uninspired, the direction-wise. In the original, it has these amazing shots and these sweeping camera motions with no camera at all. There's a moment in the original movie that I love, that in this movie, when it was kind of coming to that moment, it wasn't there, and I was just like, what? It just didn't feel as special or powerful when the wildebeests, I'm to this day not sure how you pronounce that, when they're coming down, the stampede is coming down, and Simba first realizes that he sees it. They mess with the depth of field like in a classic horror movie, and they pull into Simba's face while the rest it feels like the background is getting further away. They do that in an animated movie, even though there's no camera, which is just so awesome. It's such a cool feel. And in here, there's nothing like that. I gotta pull back. I say there's nothing like that. In this movie, I felt like there was two moments where the direction felt more unique or interesting, if you will, rather than just these straight shots or slightly panning across animals. It's truly the only word, and I hate using this for a Jon Favreau movie, boring. It felt boring to look at. And not only that, the dialogue, a lot of it is the exact same, which often delivered by these actors. The actors, I'll say, some of them are fine, just no better. Nobody in this movie appears to be better than the originals, from my short memory. The only character I will say that is just straight good is, I feel like, Donald Glover. Like, he does a good job, but like I wouldn't say he's necessarily better than Matthew Broderick at it. There are some. The kid who plays Simba gives a cringeworthy performance, in my opinion, as well as John Oliver, who is a hilarious comedian, but I even like him on Community where he's acting, but in here it feels, the way he's delivering his lines is so bizarre. It doesn't feel real almost. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just, it legitimately made me cringe in the theater. And him singing, we do the song Can't Wait to Be King, and John Oliver, the way he's performing it, it just doesn't feel like as powerful, or powerful is a weird word for a comic relief character almost. It's not as fun, I guess is the best word, as Rowan Atkinson's performance. I'm truly like sad inside right now reviewing this, because I love Jon Favreau. I went into this movie, I love most of the cast in this. I went in expecting it to be good because I'd avoid all other reviews before seeing this. I didn't know it was gonna be this bad, and I think I went in with expectations too high, and was just truly bummed out. But back to the performances, they're just not as good as the original. It feels like it's one of the biggest letdowns is James Earl Jones reprises his role as Mufasa, and it's a significantly weaker performance. And I know he's aged 25 years, but even so, it's just a huge disappointment to hear these lines that are so powerful in the original, so emotional in the original, and in this they just feel so flat, which I kind of wonder if like that was a direction, like tone it down because these animals don't show the emotion that they do in the animated movie. I'm not sure. That's a theory. The songs, for the most part, were the songs from the original, with the exception of, I believe, the only one two that I had an issue with. The first, Be Prepared, one of the greatest songs of all Disney catalog. It's a classic. It's awesome. It's in my opinion, and I'm sorry to all the Ursula fans, the best villain song that they've ever released. It's so cool, especially with the visuals in the original. And in this one, I feel like they just neutered it. It doesn't feel creepy or scary necessarily. They didn't. I don't know if this was the actor's choice or the direction, but it's not sung for the most part. It's like just talked, if that's the right word. It's just. It's a huge disappointment, as most of this movie is. And the other one was, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Is that the actual name of the song? That my only true complaint. Most of the song was fine, but it felt like Beyonce was overdoing it. It felt like she should have watched Jurassic Park before. You know, she didn't ask if she should before she asked if she could. Because she is basically singing 10 notes per word. She's doing this, can you feel the love? I apologize for my singing. But that is what it feels like. She's like really overdoing it, which is, I guess, would be fine because that's probably her thing. I don't really listen to Beyonce, so I'm sure she's just doing her thing that she was hired to do. But next to Donald Glover, who's pretty much just singing the notes as they're written on the original song, it's just a bizarre comparison between the two, because he's kind of just singing like you would, and she's going all at it. So those are my only complaints about the songs, I believe. I will say my favorite part about this movie, which is not a lot, Billy Eichner's performance as Timon was pretty good. I liked him. The original, I would say, is a significantly funnier movie, and I guess you expect that with an animated film. But in this one, I didn't laugh out loud once. The only times I would kind of or smile was Timon's lines. He had a few new ones that were kind of funny. There was more of an era update where Timon and Pumbaa one of them would make a joke and the other would say nice instead of laughing, which is very millennial, I guess, if you will. I loved the look of their place. I honestly loved the look of all the backgrounds. They all looked great. The animals looked great for the most part. There was only one moment where I remember looking at the CGI of the animal, which is when Nala is being bathed by her mother. She looked like a video game character almost. I don't know what happened there, if it was rushed or what, if it's just hard to animate a cub lion being bathed by a tongue. I don't know. It looked wonky to me. The rest looked great. The fire at the end looked great, but it just wasn't exciting. There is the emotion, the thrill, the humor, the joy of hearing those songs. It just wasn't there for me. And I feel like it's not me. I know sometimes you go into a movie and you're just not synced up with that movie. I think I was very synced up because the whole time in the movie I'm thinking I want to watch the original, or I want to watch Jon Favreau's The Jungle Book. Those both came into me. That's a weird way to put that. Those thoughts both crossed my mind during this movie, but the movie itself wasn't serving what I wanted. But I feel like I could get what I wanted from either of those two movies. So I don't think it's me. I think it's this movie. It's just, here, my main theory for this movie is it just shouldn't have been made. The original was a masterpiece. You can't remake a masterpiece. I say that, although I guess I loved A Star Is Born last year, and most people did, and most people consider the original, the first two, I believe, masterpieces, but not the third for some reason. Anyway, off tangent. It was all of these animated movies, I guess, or live action remakes of the Disney animated classics are unnecessary, I guess you could say. And I would say The Jungle Book is the only one that has truly been great. The rest are subpar to terrible. I don't know what else to say about this. I was hoping I would have a lot to just spew out for the podcast, but honestly, it's just bumming me out talking about it again. I love Jon Favreau. I can't wait to see what he does next. He's producing Disney and Star Wars The Mandalorian, so we'll see how that looks. But it truly makes me realize that everyone is human, and we shouldn't put anyone on a pedestal because even the best can fail. I officially give this movie 2 out of 5 stars, which may seem low to some. I think that's it. It was not a good movie. It was boring. It was emotionless. It was uninspired. It was upsettingly disappointing. And that's my review. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please subscribe. If you watched on YouTube, head over to iTunes or Stitcher or your podcast app. I put it up on there as well, so feel free to subscribe there. Or the opposite, if you're listening and you want to go subscribe to the YouTube, I put up a video format of this. I really enjoy reviewing movies, so if you want to see more, check them out. And don't forget, never forget that trailers are spoilers.